Welcome to the Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered podcast, Iowa Football Rewind.
Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast player to get a behind-the-scenes look that you won't find anywhere else.
Nice to see you guys. Congrats
Yeah.
on the this is going international. I love it. This is going worldwide. Here we go.
I think all his Frankfurt buddies love him.
Here, I'm taking
Big in Germany, right?
Yeah, we're like David Hasselhoff, one of my old teammates from the Frankfurt Galaxy was like, got in touch with me, and I was like, oh, we've got somebody in Germany. Is that you?
I love it.
Yeah.
We got.
How's your family? You said your dad was so
good. Yeah. They were just up here, so I got, I guess, two boys, 17 and 14, so junior, freshman, and so heavy football right now. Both are QBs. One guy's a lefty, which I don't understand. Don't know how God made that happen, but he did. Both play hockey and baseball. So just, we're plugging away and busy every night, which is great. We were at a 9th grade game here a little bit ago, and happy to say we won, because winning matters at 9th grade, right? Could have been scouts there. That's what I told them. You never know. I'm joking, by the way, but we all have friends. And I know, Brian, you don't have children, but I'm sure you have some friends that youth sports is bonkers, by the way. Yeah. FYI, if you haven't figured that out. But so no, family's great, and Betsy's plugging away, and she still likes me after 24 years. So
Hurley, look it up quick.
That's good. She walks out the door. She walks out the door right now. Jeez,
like that's the last straw.
Yeah, exactly. So no, life's good here, and the parents are good, and yeah, my folks, I guess my dad's birthday today, he turned 82, and they get up all the time. So it's only about an hour and 45 minutes for them to come up here. So we have the good fortune of where they're up here watching ball games. And I just talked to him today and just wish him happy birthday. He's like, I'll see you Friday. And what I love about a guy being 84 years old, man, there's nothing. When he watches a high school football game, there isn't one thing that goes right. There's defense that could have been different, terrible offensive call. At a 9th grade game the other day, he yelled at the gal volunteer that was keeping the down marker because she didn't turn it fast enough. So that's what I'm dealing with on Tuesday at 4:30 in the afternoon. But so it's all good.
Coach, you can't beat it out.
Oh, you just can't. Yeah, he just he has an expectation. If you don't meet the expectation, whether you're a player, coach, or the volunteer mom doing the downs marker, it's not good enough. So I'm like, oh my God, Dad. So we got that going. And then Betsy's mom gets up here a lot. Pat, you guys both remember Pat Beamer. So she gets up here a ton, which is awesome. She was here all weekend. And so we're really, really blessed that way. We're there. They're part of the boys' life, which is all you can ask for.
That's awesome.
How long have you been up in Minneapolis?
We moved up here in 2001. I did the arena ball thing for 3 years, thinking I'd be next Kurt Warner, and clearly that didn't happen. That guy hit the lottery. You think about what happened to him and how it all worked out. Dick Vermeil, St. Louis Rams, all that stuff. But so we've been up here then and bounced around a couple different places, but we're in Rosemount, which is it's like a southeast suburb. So we like it. We have great neighbors and typical suburban America. Just open your garage and open a beer, and all of a sudden you have 2 or 3 neighbors that show up, and it's a Tuesday. But that's what they do. So, but y'all similar values, and you just take care of each other. So no, we're really, really lucky to have some good people around us. When I was done with arena ball, that's when so the Hartlieb family is really, really close and near and dear to my heart, because really Johnny, as you guys recall, Johnny is a lunatic, which I love him like a brother. Just talked to him this week, but he's a lunatic, or was. He's settled down now. His son Matt actually lives here. He's in insurance, and so I got to know him a little bit. But Johnny took me underneath the wing, and that was my first experience with David Bain, Father Bain, and meeting him, and that really changed my life in a lot of different ways. But knowing Johnny, and then obviously getting to know Jim, and then got really close to Chuck, and Chuck is clearly one of my best friends still today, and I talk to him weekly as well, right or wrong. But he got me into the medical sales bit. So did that from 2001 to 2007. And then I was just traveling a bunch. I had Minnesota, North and South Dakota, and I don't have an accent, so don't say I do, because I don't. But I was traveling too much. And we had Cade. Cade was born in 2007. And I just said, gosh dang it, I just don't want to be. And we all have friends like this, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I didn't want to be the guy that jump on a plane or drive in a car Monday through Thursday, and all of a sudden, show up on a Friday and be that dad. And So I made a change, and that's when I jumped over to the athletic side of it, and been at the University of Minnesota ever since gosh, 2007. So probably made more money as a 26-year-old than I do now, but I think it was the right thing for a lot of different reasons.
What's the dynamic like last weekend for you?
Again, so this is my 16th year of doing it.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. I mean, I liked, this was one of the first years, I think, when we had the game in September. I think we all can agree it should be the end of November for all the obvious reasons, because it means so much. And I loved it because I just wore all black, and I was like, hey, I'm Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash, cool dude. Just wear all black. And so that's what I did, and no one got after me. But then, like this last week, I went to a couple tailgates and some folks that you guys both know. And here I am, I have a job to do. And here I go for hat, maroon shirt. And they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, this is my job. Don't care. So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. Listen, I'm 50 years old, so let's move forward a little bit. I mean, we all love the passion of college sports because that's, it gave us a platform and an opportunity that I won't speak for both of you. But for me, it gave me a chance to certainly, it gave me an opportunity I never ever thought I'd have in my life, and the people I met and the opportunities I've been fortunate enough to receive because of it. So, I mean, it pulls you both directions, right? I mean, we wanted a good game. We got a heck of a game. Iowa certainly did some great things in the second half. And we had the good luck of going down to Iowa camp this summer, and Cade went to the quarterback camp or one of their camps. I mean, it's interesting how the camps now, but talked to Coach Ferentz. Cade met Coach Ferentz, who's my older son, Cade. And so that was really, really fun, right? But you get pulled in a lot of different directions, Brian. There's a long answer to your question. I'm not even sure I answered it, but it's just I love this. I loved last weekend, but I also hate this. I hate it too, right? Because it's like, oh my gosh, because I get it on both sides. I mean, I get hammered on text messages, whether you win or lose. I get them on both sides, and I'm just like, good Lord, I'm just trying to, I'm just
double loser on that one. Yeah,
just let me enjoy the moment here.
Yeah, right. Let me have a few beers and relax. Yeah,
smoke and mirrors. That's what I always tell you. Smoke and mirrors, man. I'll try to fool them as long as I can, and some people will figure it out, and some won't, and that's all right.
Nice. And what do you do for the program there then?
So I work for Learfield, and I have for 15 years. So Learfield is our company has, gosh, now 165 schools underneath our corporate umbrella. I handle the stuff here at Minnesota. So same at Iowa, same at UNI, same at Iowa State, Wisconsin. So we're basically a third party, if you will, but really, really closely tied to the university and their marketing arm. So my goal is to go out and get corporate, in this case, corporate Minnesota involved with Gopher Athletics, and whether that's hospitality, whether that's marketing, whether it's radio, whatever, digital, social, whatever it might be. So just trying to get people involved with the university and using Gopher Athletics in this case as kind of that mouthpiece or that front porch, if you will, to get their brands out.
Nice. Keeps you close to the game, I'm sure. Interesting people. All right.
It does. Yeah, it does. So I get the opportunity to go to practice here and there, and I enjoy it. But at the same point, it's just the game, as you guys both know, the game's changed so much, and just the perception of college sports and really what it is. And I'm trying to get as much money involved as I can, right? So it's a money game. And then I talk about the good old days a little bit, about what it used to be. But what I do appreciate about it, Nick, and thanks for saying that. Yeah, it's fun to be around. It's fun to be around practice. We traveled to North Carolina last year and kind of did that whole bit. And so I'm going to places that I've never been, and in trying to enjoy, college athletics. So I feel real fortunate to be in the role I'm in. And, we all have our own personal brand. And I think my personal brand fits in really well with what I'm doing now.
So as far as, let's go back to the kids. So they have you and then your dad. So like, is there just like film studies? Like what are we putting them through in a week here? Are we like, making reads? We got like a walkthrough. We got all this.
Well,
they're probably lucky, but they're probably also like, holy cow, yeah, football knowledge coming my way.
Well, I always tell the story. Like when I had the good fortune against St. Ansgar, a town of 1,000 people, and my father was my coach the entire way through, which I think, and Nick, I hope you have the opportunity to coach your daughter. I coach my kids all the way from 3rd grade. And I always said, listen, be involved, be part of it. I certainly don't have all the answers. I can't coach hockey because I can't skate. I always say I look like NASCAR. I have one turn. I'm turn left and I hit the boards, and that's all I have. And both of my kids are beautiful skaters, and they're really good. And I suck. But the thing I learned from my father is like him and I battled, man, my freshman and sophomore year of high school. But then all of a sudden, my junior or senior year, I was like, holy smokes, he kind of does know what he's talking about, right? And I'm hoping it's happened a little bit with my older boy, but he's kind of said, like, okay, Dad doesn't know what he's talking about to some extent. So we do watch some film together, which, you know, on Huddle and all these, the technology is unbelievable for high school kids, and even for 7th and 8th graders. I mean, there's people filming, and we have drones above fields, and I mean, it's just bonkers, right? But I really enjoy that piece of it, and the opportunity to just say, hey, you know, soft corner, throw a hitch, don't wait, throw it right away. I mean, some of these kind of basic things that maybe they don't always hear from some other folks. So I think I learned a lot from my father from that perspective. And I guess I try to instill that in my kids. Certainly don't do it right all the time, but that's one of the things I really, really enjoyed is kind of the coaching aspect. And now I'm out of it after doing it from 3rd grade, because I just said, you know what, let someone else, he needs a different voice. Both of them do, frankly, to hear someone else talk about attacking a 3 technique and change your cadence and all those type of things. So, but it's been really, really fun. I guess at the end of the day, I really appreciate my kids. I think they want to learn, and I think they appreciate it, but maybe at the time they don't always say it. And I can understand that because I was them.
And how did your dad have a lineage of being a coach? I mean, because I look back at some of the high school records and some of those things, and they're still, your name was sprinkled in there quite a bit.
Not enough, though. Not enough, Nick. Not enough. But no, I mean, listen, at the end of, I mean, I'll give my father credit. I remember when I was in 6th grade, Houston, the University of Houston Cougars, there's a guy named Mouse Davis was the offensive coordinator. And my father and I used to watch VHS tapes. And I don't know where he got them from, but we're watching the University of Houston. And gosh dang it, David
his brother.
David Klingler. So we used to watch tape on that. And so they had the 4 wide. And that was kind of revolutionary at the time. And we started just mimicking those plays. And again, I wasn't playing, but I remember him sitting in the basement and we were watching these. And so for him to kind of do that and just kind of advance, and the beauty about high school sports, and you guys know this, is, listen, the best coaches adapt to what they have each year, right? And in a college environment, you adapt to what the system is. Well, in the high school environment, yes, you have your foundation, but if you have really skilled guys, guess what? We better do or throw or this. If you have some guys, some boys in the trenches that can block, okay, let's run the football, right? So you adapt every year. The best high schools do is, pretty simple. So I'll give him credit for doing that. And in my year, we just had really skilled guys. We had enough, I had 3 guys go on and continue to play in college, either football, baseball, or basketball. My class is 53 kids, right? That's pretty dang good.
Wow.
And so he adapted the offense to kind of figure that out. And, listen, a coach is a coach is a coach. It never leaves him, right? He still coaches track at 84 years old, or 83, I guess, today. And, he throws, and I mean, I think it frankly keeps him kind of up and running a little bit, is to be able to coach and teach, right? I think the coaching, we always say coaching, but coaching is teaching. And if you take that mindset, I just think it goes a long way. And it's something I certainly tried to kind of work in my conversations, for sure.
I think it's an interesting piece. I think at least back when we played, that they, to a certain degree, tried to kind of ground off all the edges of like the guys with the personalities, right? It's like everyone's motivated in a different way. Everyone kind of does their thing a different way, and like it always seemed to be kind of like this is the way it's done, and it's like you don't fit in this box. And it's kind of there were some guys that I was like, oh, I was thinking back, I was like, it would have really been, we would have had much different, I think, players if they would have been like, okay, well, you're this person, and you're going to be a little bit, out of the box, and then the rest of us, and kind of, let people grow their hair and like that stuff. I think that kind of gets lost a little bit, or got lost a little bit back then.
I think it did. Yeah, that's a good point. I just think it was a generational deal. It's just a different time, right? I mean, if you talk to Chuck Hartlieb and some of those folks, it was just a different time. And then we got a little bit longer leash. And then all of a sudden now you can kind of do what you want. And frankly, have a personality and really be who you are. But I think back, guys, when we were there, it's just like, I guess I was so, and Nick, I think you're the same way. I just was so appreciative to have that opportunity and to be in that spot, because if you would have asked me a million times over a million, it's like, no, I would never have that opportunity. It was a dream come true, right? And so for me, I was just like, I was a good soldier, man. Run there, no problem. Do this, be here, right? But that's part of the deal. But I also think that's what sports kind of do. They kind of shape you for that next opportunity. And whether that's, you know, just being on time and just acting the right way and treating people the right way, right? That's the beauty of sports. And I still try to talk about that today. But you're right. You're right, Nick. I mean, I think we were limited, and not that you and I were, well, you had a great personality. Clearly I didn't, but you did. But, you know, I mean, it's one of those things where, but we know guys that did, right? And they did it. And all of a sudden everyone's like, hey, just slow down a little bit. And nowadays we celebrate that, right? Be you, do what you want to do. So I think it's just, it was the era. It is what it is. And, you know, I think you do the best with what you can at the time.
Talk to me about your recruiting kind of journey. You, like I said, you had a really you had a great high school career, threw for a lot of yards. You know, you guys were super successful. Like, so you must have been on the radar pretty early for those guys. And did you have a lot of looks from other programs, or?
I heard you talk about yours, and I think you and I have a similar path in a lot of ways. Well, a lot of ways we have a similar path, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't until I went down to the Iowa camp. And at that time, camps were everything, right? You go down to camp, and Coach Elliott said, hey, love to have you down. And I remember my father and I drove, and we're talking defense the entire way down because we had no idea. We're talking 30 sky, 20 zone. Okay, here's how you attack man. And we're going into camp. And so I went to the 2-day camp, and there was another quarterback named Richard Lowry who played for West Des Moines Dowling, who was a really, really talented high school kid. And this would have been going into my junior year. And it was kind of him and I mean, that's at the end of it, that's kind of what I gathered. And so I had a really good camp, and I remember Coach Elliott saying, hey, you know, you did really well. You have a lot of intangibles. And I didn't even know what that word meant, but I was just like, okay, sounds good. Right. So go through junior year, have a successful junior high school career. And you guys know this. I mean, and especially you, where you play high school, you know, football, basketball, ran track, did baseball, right? So you do all that stuff. So go back in between the junior and senior year to camp. And again, a little bit higher profile only because I had a really good junior year. Richard's there. There's a couple other high school players there. And believe it or not, Willie Guy's there. Now, Willie Guy was on campus, but remember, his whole story was unbelievable. That'd be another beautiful podcast. You ever get Willie on here, because his story is unbelievable. But, you know, USA player of the day or player of the year, et cetera, et cetera. But he was there running routes during camp, and he ran an out and up on the old field up top there, boys, where the field hockey field was. Remember that? And he ran this out and up, and everyone was watching, and I threw a beautiful ball. And I'm not going to give Willie all the credit because he didn't have to do anything. All he had to do is put his hands out, but he caught it. And from that point on, that was one of the indicators where all of a sudden, I think Coach Elliott kind of nodded his head. And then I remember Coach Elliott saying, hey, you got something, you got some talent. And that was pretty exciting. So that kind of set things in motion, at least from the Iowa perspective. Now, remember, my brother played at Iowa State back in the late 80s, early 90s. So Jim Walden, so had that connection. But other than that, Nick, from a recruiting standpoint, it was really more, you know, I guess from a D1 perspective, it's really those two schools. Illinois, Lou Tepper was the coach at that time. He nibbled a little bit, but I mean, as we all know, if you can play for Coach Fry, and when I had that opportunity, I was just like, holy smokes. Now I can tell you a story from a recruiting trip. Nick, you might have been on that. I was the first. I was like, it was December. It was December before Christmas. So let's just say it was the, I don't know, third week in December when I went on my official visit.
I think so. I think the only thing I remember is like I had to go to church. I think I didn't get to go to church that so.
Well, I could tell stories going up to it, but at the end of it, so Casey Wigman, who we all love and admire, and you know, just one of the best humans ever, he was my host, and you know, small town Iowa guys, the whole bit, and so did everything. Went through the sports column, which took my boy. We were back for a home opener and walked by the sports column, and I'm just like kind of shaking my head, and I'm like, hey, go through the alley there, and there's another door, and that's kind of where you go when you get recruited. Go through the back door. but what I remember about it is, so go have a great experience. Sunday morning, it's me and my parents, and we're sitting in Coach Fry's office, and Coach Fry goes, hey, this is early or mid-December. He goes, we're going to offer one quarterback this year. That's we're taking one. Okay, great. Because remember, Ryan's a year older than me, right? So Ryan Driscoll's a year older than me. Go, we're going to take one. Okay. It's between you and Jake Plummer. So basically, whoever takes it first. So that was Sunday. Let's just say noon. We get home. It's about a 3-hour drive to St. Ansgar. Again, landlines, no cell phones, no nothing like that. And I remember pulling into our house in St. Ansgar, and this would have been, let's just say, whatever, I don't know, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Dad was like, what do you think? I go, I think we should call Coach Fry. He goes, I do too. So we called Coach Fry that night when we got home on the old landline and said, we're in. I have no idea if Coach Fry was just playing me as like the ultimate sales guy. May have been. I'm not sure Jake Plummer even knew who Coach Fry was, but he did a beautiful job. And so we took advantage of it at the time and never looked back.
We're starting to hear these Coach Fry little intimidation tactics coming through. That was Derek Price's same thing. He said, we're going to scholarship one tight end. We got 2 coming in. What's your answer?
What? I know. He has all the leverage in the world, right? I have no leverage. I'm just, again, I showed all my cards. Happy to be here. Small town Iowa guy. Love to play for you, right? He knew everything. He didn't have to. Yeah, he didn't have to do that. So he's like, I don't know, Jake. And maybe one of you. I'd love to talk to him about that.
That would be awesome.
Some point. I'm going to try to do that at some. I don't know how I'll do it. But I think that would be interesting to hear that story and go, hey, were you ever going to go to Iowa on a visit? I'd love to have him go, no, never.
Where?
What are you talking about? Because I think he was from Montana. He was a small town Montana guy. Why? Think about it logically. Why would Iowa ever go to Montana to get it never, because at that time it was very regional recruiting. We had Texas, we had Iowa, we went to Illinois.
New Jersey.
Right? That was the deal. Why would you go to Montana? You wouldn't. So looking back, I'm like, I think he played me like a beautiful book of cards right there and just got me.
We got to get an answer to that. We got to find out. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I'll try to. Jay could probably go, no. God.
He's like, where?
I was going to ASU the entire time. Why wouldn't you go to Arizona State? Right? Arizona State, Iowa. I get it.
Are you Cyclone fans? Because your brother went to
for sure.
Iowa State, yeah.
Yeah. I have this great memory. I was 10 years old watching Brian Bosworth walk down from the visitors' locker room, painted up, number 44.
I was there.
It was unbelievable.
I was at that game. I was down there too, because I remember walking past. He walked past him. I was like, that is the biggest person I've ever seen in the world.
He had the painted hair. It was legendary, and they beat Iowa State, 55-6 or whatever the number was. So I might have played
a couple times, but it was 4 years. Only twice they would have played there. So I know I was at one of those.
Yeah, I was at one of them.
I was probably the same.
Yeah, my brother, he didn't play much. He was kind of a special teams receiver type guy. He didn't play a ton, but so I guess growing up, that's kind of what I knew. And then I remember Coach Walden coming to St. Ansgar and told my dad, because Coach Walden was at Washington State, and Mark Ripken, remember that quarterback from the Redskins days, he was at Washington State with Jim Walden, and Jim Walden came in and goes, hey, I want Matt to come to Iowa State. He can be like Mark Ripken, run the option. And I'm like, and my dad's like, we don't run the option. That's not what we do. And that kind of calmed those Jets down from Jim Walden. He's just like, oh, okay. And I don't know why he said that. I again love to talk to him about it, because it made no sense. Why? I'm not an athlete like Nick. Nick was a really good athlete. I understand that. But, I always say, listen, I'm a 4.8 40 guy, downhill, downwind, wet day. But that ain't going to work in the Big 8 back in the day, running the option when you're a 4.8 guy. That doesn't work. So, but he had a great experience at Iowa State, and I still have a lot of friends that I talk to that we played against at Iowa State, which is pretty cool. So I think everything worked out, and I know you too, so I'm better off.
Yeah, right. And you got stuck rooming with me. So.
What a well, that's a Coach Elliott deal, right? Think about it. I mean, I remember Coach E just saying, "Hey, you need a room with Nick." I go, "Perfect." And then I got Mike Gallery coming in, just setting up the bunk bed or the building the lofts. It was unbelievable. I didn't have to do a thing.
Oh, those would have withstood like 3
Oh
hurricanes.
my gosh.
Those were made so well. I was like, yeah, I think those lasted like at least 15 or 20 years.
Your father was just great. Oh my gosh. That's what I loved about it when we moved in, right? Because you don't know what's going on. You have this vision, and all of a sudden, I mean, I knew Nick a little bit, just who he is and how he is and all that stuff. But you don't really know people, and then you meet the family, and it's just like, all right, life's gonna be okay. It's gonna be just fine. It's I guess I feel really fortunate just because I think it's such a trajectory of kind of where you're going is who the people you are right around right away, and to have you, Nick, in that spot, because I won't speak for you, but I will kind of. Neither one of us knew what was going on. We're just, you're punter, kind of tight end guy, kind of maybe play defense guy. I'm quarterback guy. I forgot about the punting thing when you brought that up on one of your podcasts.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize. I mean, I tried it out, or whatever. I didn't know what I was doing, and
you must have pretty good stats. They brought you in, I think, with the idea that you could compete, because that was pretty open at that point. There was
at that point, yeah.
Scott Fisher had graduated, so the job was kind of open.
Yeah, I mean, who knows about the stats back then, right? I mean, I probably had a high school buddy keeping the stats, or one of my father's friends up in the press box. I mean, you could say, "Oh, he's a 46-yard average." I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, come on, but I don't know. I mean, that's both my boys.
You could punt. I remember you could punt.
Oh, I could punt. Yeah, I didn't have a strong legs like you guys. I mean, Nick
was the high tops. The high tops threw me off.
The high top. Yeah, the high top Reebok. They killed me. Yeah, that didn't work. And then I tried, I put the lace on the side, and that doesn't always work when you got high tops on, the knot. So what I loved about you, Brian, though, is you were like a technician. Like Nick was just strong, and I'm just gonna muscle that thing out, and it's gonna look good. But you were like a professor when you did that stuff. That's what I loved about you, is not just punting, kicking. And I'm being honest. That's what I really appreciated about you, is you were very technical in everything you did. And I know kickers are like that.
We're a lot odd,
obviously, but no, not odd. No, not at all. Right?
No, that's true.
You cared about kind of exactly. You had a routine. This is what you do, how you do it, and that's what I really, really appreciated about how you did things. That was pretty cool.
I was scared of pulling a muscle. That was my biggest fear. I was like, I cannot cut out anything on my stretching routine, or I'm going to pull a muscle, and then that's going to derail everything. So I was very meticulous about that.
I was thinking about this today, and I was thinking about kind of when I listened to the one of the podcasts when you were talking, Brian, is like competing, and then Nick got it, and then you were slightly injured, I think, right? And
Nick got hurt. Later he got hurt.
Later Nick got hurt. Yeah.
Yeah.
But something, and you tweak something, and you think about like what I had with Ryan Driscoll, right? And God rest his soul, right? 2018, and I mean, and I'll give him all the credit in the world, because when I first met him, and that was part of my recruiting visit, and take a step back here, and I met him, and a guy that clearly I knew, just his success through high school and everything that they have done. He was a 5-star guy. I think they had 5 stars back then. I was like a 1 or 2-star guy type deal, right? I mean, Ryan was the biggest player in the state, and then I met him, and he was great, and then kind of everything that transpired, right? He gets hurt in Michigan. I'm hurt. I don't have an opportunity to come in. Then other guys come in and play, and then I have an opportunity to come back, and Purdue, and Coach Fry's like, "Hey, you gotta play," and they shoot my foot up. Dr. Buckwalter, I'll never forget it. He put a needle in my foot and pulled it out, and it was bent. And I'm like, holy smokes.
Whoa.
And we flew back from Purdue. And I remember I woke up about 3 or 4 a.m. and my foot woke up. And I was like, holy smokes. And then moving forward in Northwestern and Iowa, and then Northwestern and Minnesota, and then we just shot it up both times. And Dr. Buckwalter needle didn't come out bent, which is great. But but the challenge that I think Ryan and I had is, here I have some other success. he is obviously the name, and for all the obvious and right reasons. And I guess I wish he was still. I wish he was still around, obviously, but just the way he handled things, because I think about how my just watching my kid and competing and all that, and Ryan just kind of he just took the high road all the time, right? He just we competed, but he just did it the right way, and God knows in '95 I wasn't great at times, and I'm sure he's like, what, why can't I play? And but you know what, he encouraged. I mean, I guess I learned so many kind of lessons from him on that perspective, and just how you're the team's bigger than you, and I think he always had that in his heart. It wasn't about what I did or what he did; it was about the greater good. And certainly in '96 we had a lot of success, and he was a big part of that. And it's something I think about, frankly, probably daily.
Had you stayed in touch with him after school?
A little bit. I mean, a little bit, Nick. Not we didn't call or text probably weekly, but when I had a chance or an opportunity to see him, it was fun to kind of reminisce. And it was never about. And I guess what I like about our group is it was never about kind of this game or this play or why'd you do. It was more about what's going on. And certainly now with families, how's your family? We got to that point, and so he was in Rockford, and obviously I was up here, but we did connect when we could. But just a heck of a person, and someone I think about how he handled things, and that's what I really, really, really respect about him.
Mine is a little different because I was a walk-on. I wasn't expecting to play, but Ryan, being highly recruited and with all the accolades coming in, I would think that was even more challenging because there's even pressure on him. There's no pressure on me. Like, people are like, if you even get on the team and stay on the team, that's an accomplishment. But for him to have that pressure and then say, to be as cool as he was with it, because we didn't know for sure. Like, we were going to ask you just because we don't know how you guys got along. But
right.
That's awesome to hear, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, and think about we had Casey Wegman. He lived with Casey and Jared and Ian Davis and some other folks, right? That we all know, right? And those were friends of mine and guys that are obviously my teammates, right? I mean, Casey's my center, and he's living with Ryan. So how to that dynamic, I think, was just so bizarre a little bit, but somehow we made it work. And I wish I knew the secret sauce to how it worked. I don't, because I think if you could figure that out, man, it'd be really, really powerful. But I guess I just appreciate him. Like, I remember running off the field, and I think it was Northwestern in '95, which we got beat over there. Tough game. And but his encouraging words, like, hey, hang in there. It's gonna be fine. It's that type of stuff. Where for him being a Lindmar guy, and you're right, Brian, he was the next Chuck Long. Called it as, he was the guy. And for things to kind of work out the way it did, it's hard to understand sometimes, I'm sure. But and I'll give his parents credit too. His parents are great. They befriended my parents and were part of it, and all those type of things that I guess looking back I didn't realize at the time. So yeah, I think I just learned a lot from that whole experience, and now being 50 years old and trying to look back and understand that, there's certainly some lessons learned that I try to either pass on to my kids or even friends of my boys, and about being a great teammate, because it's easy to say, it's hard to do at times, but he was all the time.
I think you were being a little modest as well. You were really talented as well, and so I think we were fortunate to have both you guys, to be competitors and kind of push to get the best out of both of you, right? I'm sure he was like, you felt that pressure of being a quarterback and the kind of the pressure that the fans put on you guys to win and to kind of take all the heat when things don't go correctly, and like he's on your heels and all that stuff. So I think so. So
Yeah.
it was fortunate for us to have that. I think really have some quarterback level that was pretty high quarterback level play. So
Yeah. I mean, yeah, good point. I mean, every day was a compete, right? And every coach would say, "Hey, we just want players to go out and compete." And I think Ryan and I would tell you that every day mattered. There wasn't, that Thursday, you say kind of a walkthrough helmet shoulder pads day, that mattered. And that's how I think I looked at every Thursday. That Monday mattered. And it wasn't for everybody, but we kind of just handled it the right way, I think. And we just had some really good quarterbacks, I think, in that room, from Jefferson Bates to Corby Smith to Kyle McCann, Corey Hauser, Randy Reiners. I mean, there were some really good guys in that room that I think also understood kind of the challenges of these two guys kind of going here, and how do you handle that? We're pretty fortunate, I think. And then Coach Patterson did a good job of trying to just be honest. And then I'll always come back to Coach Elliott. He's coaching DBs, safeties, whatever he was, or D coordinator. But gosh dang it, I mean, he was always involved. He was my guy in the corner to go talk to when I needed someone to talk to. It wasn't about football necessarily, but Coach Elliott was always there. And that was one person I used as kind of a sounding board, or someone, frankly, to, as we all know, he kind of put your arm around you and go, "It's going to be fine. It's going to be okay." And I just trusted him.
You kept mentioning Coach Elliott when you were at the football camp, because he was running the camp, or he was like the main recruiter, or what was?
Yeah, he recruited our area, and Nick, he recruited you. So I don't know his whole. Nowadays it's all about like, okay, you recruit Iowa and you recruit Illinois, or they all have their areas, right? But for us, or at least for me and Nick, I think it's accurate to say he kind of recruited kind of north of Iowa City. And so I got to know him halfway through, like I said, my sophomore year, and then camp, and then kind of expounded on that. But yeah, he was my main contact for the University of Iowa and Iowa football, which couldn't ask for a better guy. My gosh, just for a sounding board and someone just to trust and believe in and inspire, he was wonderful.
Yeah, he's unbelievable.
Yeah.
We actually just talked with Demo, and Demo got recruited by John O'Hara, and he passed away after he signed before camp started in '92. And he said that was huge because John was like his go-to person. And he said he didn't have that when he got on campus. The person that he trusted and built this relationship with wasn't there.
Yeah.
And he said that made it so much more difficult. Like you said, how much nicer it was to have Coach Elliott there to talk to about maybe Coach Patterson or Coach Fry or something, somebody you could actually talk to about stuff. And he said that really hurt when he lost that connection, because he didn't have someone to go talk to right there. Yeah. So I hadn't even thought about that till he said that.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, Brian, it probably didn't kick me in until his passing, when it kind of hit you in the face, right? All of a sudden, this kind of stoic person that's always been there, super positive, it was all, super successful in so many different ways, and then all of a sudden that person is gone, at least in body, not in spirit, certainly, but you think about that, and then you think about the impact he had on your life. And the older you get, you realize it's like, holy smokes, you're only as good as the people that came before you. You're only as good as the people that allowed you to kind of impact their life. And oh my gosh, he impacted my life in more ways than I can ever say thank you. I'd love to talk to his wife about it, but I can't say thank you enough, because he changed my life and he changed the direction of my life. And so to have him kind of there as a person that I could just say, here's what I got going on, what do you think? There was a comfort there, and it made a difference.
Definitely. And I think I connected with him, years after playing, at somebody's wedding or something, I think. And
yeah.
Just plugged back into that piece. And I think that's when I saw that, I was like, wow, you were really probably went to bat for me to get a scholarship and even get on the team.
I agree. Yeah.
B to be just like that. Yeah. That rock of like, no matter what. Even at that point, like whatever was happening in my life, he was like engaged and like, just plug right back in. So yeah, kind of a phenomenal human. It was great to.
He's so
great to have him.
selfless. That's what I remember about him. And I guess, I think about people that kind of serve and give, and that's what I think about him. That's what he did. He served and gave, during the football piece of it, but he was bigger than that. I mean, he'd help you on game day, but it was just bigger. And certainly lost a really, really great man, but his spirit carries on, and I think in all of us, right? And that's what I try to kind of portray and try to give back the way I can, to think about how would he handle this. And he was a heck of a guy for sure.
I mean, I have no doubt he would have taken over for Fry
I
had he
agree.
not had cancer. I mean, I
Without a
think
doubt.
that was like, in my mind, it was a no-brainer. Like,
Home run.
Coach Elliott's going to
Yep.
take over. And you felt great about that. Like, this program
about
is going to be in great shape, I just always wonder, what would have happened differently
Yeah.
without the health problems.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, that's well said, because I think you're 100% right on there, Brian. He would have done an unbelievable job.
Yeah.
Unbelievable job.
So along that same line, what was your relationship like with Coach Fry and like Coach Patterson then? Was that kind of, so you guys had to be pretty closely attuned with each other, right? As far as like game planning and that stuff, or is that not really? You guys take us into that, because that's stuff we don't even know. Like what?
Yeah. See, yeah, you were at the dorm. You didn't really care, and I
true.
was. Yeah. On Thursdays, you're hanging out, and I'm trying to, scramble and trying to figure out how we're gonna win this thing. No, I'm kidding. It was an interesting dynamic in the sense where, listen, Coach Fry was the CEO of the company, right? That's the reality, and every head coach is, and certainly Coach Fry was, and he was great at it. And then you had your VPs, and Coach Patterson being one of those, and certainly had a lot of knowledge and did a heck of a job. So, my relationship, I think, with Coach Patterson was more about, okay, how are we going to attack whatever team we're playing, and what are we going to do, and who do we need to get the ball to, and how do we do this? How do we do that? Right. So more kind of strategic piece. And then the conversation with Coach Fry was more, hey, what do you think about today? It was a little more holistic, or a little bit larger vision or picture. So I would say the conversations I had with Coach Patterson were probably more ongoing and more frequent than with Coach Fry. I remember going to watch film on Thursdays, and I know Coach Fry was there, but his door was closed. But then I'd be in Coach P's office watching film. And it was one of those things where, until Coach Fry walks by your door, you can't leave as a coach, supposedly. At least that's what they say. Because remember the square, right? You couldn't leave until Coach Fry walked by your door. He wouldn't say anything to you, but you can't leave. But so he kind of controlled that. But the X's and O's always happen with Coach Patterson. The bigger picture, and I'm having a tough time trying to kind of elaborate on it, but the bigger picture always happened with Coach Fry. It was more about the people. It was more about the players. It was more about the emotions. Those type of conversations. And I'll like Friday night, I remember at a hotel when we stayed at the old Ironside in Coralville, I had a meeting with Coach Fry in his room before the game. And it was more about it, not about, hey, what are we going to do on 3rd and 10 when we're backed up? It was more about, how do you think the team feels? What do you want to try to accomplish in the first or second quarter? Some of those things. What plays do you really like? So that's what I appreciate about him. It was just more trying to get a deep dive into kind of what we want to do, and I guess what I envisioned. And then Coach Patterson was a little bit more kind of blocking and tackling, X's and O's. Here's what we're going to do and how we're going to attack. So I think it was a pretty good, frankly, I think it was a pretty good synergy between the two. And I think it made a lot of sense at the time, certainly, for us to at least do our, to give our best effort on Saturdays.
Interesting. Yeah, I was always wondering if you were really like plugged in that regards, and I suppose it probably carried over to the game as well, right? It's like Coach Fry was probably, leaning on those other guys and being more the head figure. Yeah.
Well, I remember Coach Fry never wore a headset. He did early in his career, and then he took the headset off. So he never had a headset, but he had a beautiful piece of paper that had a lot of writing down on it. And those writings were plays that people either recommended or he liked. And so I would come off the field, I put the headset on, I talked to Coach Patterson, and we'd talk about some things, either good or bad, whatever. And then we'll figure it out. I'd probably go talk to Demo. Hey, what plays do you like? Or Damon Gibson or Dwight, et cetera, Cedric, Tavian. And then I try to go to Coach Fry and go, hey, the guys like this, this, and this. And if Coach Fry liked them, he'd write it down. If Coach Fry didn't like him, he'd go, okay. So those never got called.
Those never got, okay.
Those never got called. So, but I think about it now as coaching my own kids, because listen, I'll have the 8th graders come up, Coach, they're doing this. We got to do this. We got to do this. And as a coach, you go, I got it. Okay. And so I think about it logically.
You didn't write it down.
I'm like, no, well, I didn't write it down, but at the time I probably handled it the wrong way. I would have, hey, Coach, here's what I'm seeing. Here's why, right? You get so emotional, I think, at the time, and especially, we all know in Kinnick, it's just, I mean, there's so many eyeballs looking at you and trying to do things. And, but yeah, if Coach Fry didn't write it down, there's no chance it's getting called. That was the bottom line. That's what I learned finally by my junior year. Demo had a couple of beauty recommendations, and I was like, buddy, they didn't get written down. It's not happening.
Love it. So would you script the first number of plays, or would you the wristband was just like a list of stuff?
I think there was a script. I was never told there was a script. We had a wristband, but wristband usually meant for us, it was special plays, like long plays. Usually when you're involved, like when we had that wolf formation, remember that? That was big. That was big. Yeah, that was big for you. So it was long, drawn out plays. That's usually what the wristband. So it wasn't like normal plays. But they had a list that they would script I think it was either 10 or 12 plays. But depending on down and distance, depending on motion, depending on what's going on, Coach Fry would either stick to it or not stick to it. But Thursday, we would have 20 plays that we'd run. And then I felt great going into the ball game on Saturday and said, hey, here's what we're going to try doing. That didn't always happen, which I understand, but there's also some logic to like, no, let's run these plays because you want to see what they're doing defensively, right? Let's get twins out there. Let's see how they line up to twins or trips or doubles or what have you. So sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But and it's funny when I talk to like Chuck Hartley about it, it's the same deal. I mean, it was the same program in the 80s. It's just kind of how he was, right? And it was successful, so that's what you do.
Yeah, for sure. I remember my buddies from Ohio State. I think the one game we played at home, they had a pretty good game against you, and they were like, "Yeah, we knew every time the Y went under, it was the next end." And I was like, he sat there and waited for the ball, and I was like, yeah, I remember those days.
People knew our plays, but I guess it gives. Think about the number of games we won too, right? You just say, "Holy smokes!" Yes, Ohio State knew what was going on. Certainly, Iowa State. Dan McCarney was at the game, the home opener this year against Illinois State, and I had the pleasure to talk to him. I went up to Mark Mitchell's to the tailgate, and Dan was there, and I don't know Dan that well. I met him a couple times, but I said, "Hey, Matt Sherman." He's like, "Oh, St. Ansgar, yeah, we're going back and forth." But I still recall, and I didn't bring this up to him because I didn't think it was appropriate at the time because he was holding court telling stories, which was awesome, and I listened. But we were playing at Iowa State, so this would have been 95 probably because we beat them pretty handily. No, 96 in Iowa State, I think.
No, 95 was at Iowa State.
At Iowa State. And I remember calling an audible, and it was one white one. So one white one means 71 protection, one was live. We're going to throw double out routes on the outside. Well, we changed it up that week where one was a dummy call. And I remember when I called it, Dan goes, out route. It didn't mean out route at all. It was a dummy call. And we ran trap or something. And I wanted to go to him at the tailgate here 3 weeks ago. I was like, okay, don't do that. Don't be that guy. But but my point is, Nick, is yes, everyone in America knew our plays, right? And listen, we run pro right 41 run. Guess what? The next play is pro left 49 run. There you go. That's what we're going to do. I mean, and it was part of the deal. And I just remember Coach Fry one time I tried to not overrule, but I tried to say, what? And he just, gave me the look and yes, sir. Got it. Here's what we're going to do. So it was successful. Who am I to judge? What do I know it's a similar story, right? Coaching your kids, right? Like I was a 14 or 50-year-old. I was like, why am I gonna question Coach Fry on 49 run after he ran it for 14 yards on the right side, probably work on the left. Normally did.
Yeah, right. So this is probably a stupid question. Did you guys have the speakers in your helmet back then? You didn't, right?
Nick, come on, dude. No.
No? Yeah, that came in much later,
Speakers
right?
just came out a couple years ago. No.
Okay.
That would have been interesting though if we had it. Yeah. I don't know how that would have worked.
But you had the backup quarterback signaling as well, too, right? Or then
we had two. Yeah, so we had one live and one dummy. Yep. So either Driscoll would be live or Reiners would be dummy, or Driscoll would be live and Corey Hauser would be dummy. One of those two. Yep. So it was all hand signals, which I'm sure other teams stole that too, right? I mean, think about it logically. I mean, our players barely knew what the hand signals meant. I mean, I'm sure the other team probably figured it out. I don't know, but
And so what leeway did you have once the play came in to be like, okay, I'm going to audible this? Was there like a select list of audibles, or you were kind of like, I guess as you got older, probably made a difference.
Yeah, I mean, as you got older, you get a little more latitude, and you learn kind of through the week. Okay, if you see this formation, you see this this look defensively. But listen, at the end of the day, and Paul Burmeister would tell you this, Chuck Hartlieb would tell you this, Jim Hartlieb would tell you this, Matt Rogers would tell you this. When it comes down to third, and let's just say 3rd and 4 and north of that, it's pro right, check with me, which means it's on you, which sounds great until it doesn't work. And then that's when you see the hat thrown down. That's when you see the papers thrown down. So he's just saying, would you love the flexibility and the ability to do it? But if it doesn't work, that was a terrible call. We never looked, right? No one ever looked to the sidelines, right? I mean, that wasn't a thing, right? That was Steve Spurrier doing that at Florida, right? And that was revolutionizing the entire offensive side of the ball, where every offensive player would look and the coaches would call it. Coach Fry's deal was pro right, check with me, which means pro right, check with me on one, ready, break. No idea what the call is. And then I read the defense, and if they stem, then you might be in a little trouble, and you try to figure it out. But you love the freedom, but it puts you in some tough binds, especially on like 3rd and 8 and above that. That puts you in a tough spot.
Yeah, I can imagine. So how far were you into your career, and like how many games did you play before you felt like comfortable and you were like, all right, I've got command of this offense. I know what I'm doing. I'm like, I can see the field well and all that stuff. How long did that take?
I would say probably late in my sophomore year in 95. They always say things start slowing down a little bit. But what's interesting, in 94, when I had no idea what I was doing, and you guys were both there, I was great. I didn't know what I was doing. I just threw it, called the play, figured it out, right? And then 95, went through the summer, thought I knew what I was doing, a lot of film study, felt great about it. Struggled initially, got a little bit better at the end. We end up really, really strong in 95 and then going in 96. So, I mean, there is that truth where people say everything slows down. And from a quarterback perspective, and every quarterback would tell you, you can pre-snap things easier and quicker, and you can get the ball out of your hand quicker. It may not go exactly where you want it to go, but you know where it should go. And so I would say, halfway through my sophomore year into my junior years, where I kind of really said, all right, I can play this position at a Big Ten level. I know what I'm doing. I know how to do it. I can call the protections. I can figure out what I need to do on 3rd and 4 and 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 10 and throw it away when you need to, all those type of things. Just playing the position at a higher level rather than just reacting.
And by slowing down, you don't mean that you ran slower, right? I got to get.
Well, I never ran slower. No, I never ran fast. So that would be the other issue.
I had to get one shot in.
My longest run ever, 26 yards, Wisconsin, 1985 in Camp Randall. Come on, got it to the 1 yard line.
What I remember.
And then I think my negative rushing yards was by 498 yards that year, even with that run. So they should never count a sack as a negative rushing yard for me, though. That's garbage.
That isn't fair. Yeah,
I don't know.
That isn't fair. Yeah, someone should send an email on that one. To somebody, I don't know to who, but.
Because I thought you were also very meticulous about your drop. Like you would practice over and over again, like dropping back. I don't know if that was just something your dad taught or something you were trying to improve on.
I'm really glad you brought that up, Brian. Iowa was the only team in America that had a 4-step drop, right? Straight drop back. Chuck Hartlieb would tell you, and Matt Rogers and Burmeister, you do the 8-step drop. And the whole point is so you can see right-handed quarterback, so you can see the left tackle, left defensive end, right, as you're looking at him. That was the whole point, which sounds great. But as a quarterback, it's really hard to get transition, turn your shoulder, etc. So I worked really, really hard, and you're going back, and so you're kind of leaning back always, and your weight is never transferring forward, right? And then I had some arm problems my sophomore year and a lot of other things. So I transferred, not telling Coach Fry or Coach Patterson, where I started 4 back, but then I rotated. So if you watch a game in 1995, you'll see me do that. And Coach Patterson was not pleased with that at the time. But then we had some success and everything worked out. And Coach Fry was the same way. But it was like a compromise where, okay, as long as you do 4 back, then you can rotate your shoulders and go 3 more. But I've never done like a full NFL 5, 7-step drop. We never did it. And that just wasn't our deal. That wasn't in our DNA. So I guess I did work really, really hard, and I really tried to, I guess, get really good at that 4-step turn, rotate, get 3 more. So I could do it because I think Coach Fry is like, I'll give you a leash on a little bit, or you can try it. But if it doesn't work, we're going right back to Matt Rogers, 8-step drop. Here's what we look like, which again sounds great, but no one does it. No one does it now, right? So it hasn't worked. But yeah, I appreciate you saying that because, at the end of the day, every you're only as good as your feet, especially in the quarterback position. And as Nick alluded to, I'm not the fastest guy. I'm probably not going to outrun you. So I got to be really good in the pocket, and I took a lot of pride in that. And working in that small space when they're sliding this way or sliding that way, and just trying to create a little bit of space to hopefully be able to get the ball off. And so it was something I took a lot of pride in. And I don't know, when I watch or I talk to people today, it was something that I'm pretty proud of.
Can you also go back through the 94 season? Because it's even a blur to me what happened with the quarterbacks. And I think it's like a very monumental season for the injuries and stuff. Just kind of refresh everyone's memory about what happened that year.
Well, yeah, I'll do my best I can on it. I mean, yeah, so obviously Ryan was the starter going in and was playing well, and then he broke his collarbone in the Michigan game, which I want to say was probably about halfway through the year. And I was playing scout team at the time, and broke the 5th metatarsal in my foot, running. I think it was Penn State actually, so it was a week before the Michigan game. And so I was out. And so then that year we had Jefferson Bates played, Marcus Dupree played, Corby Smith played. So 5 of us that year. And then we were at Purdue, and we were down 21-0 at Purdue. And I was there, and you guys probably remember this, where it's like I remember going to the locker room on Thursdays, and you see the travel roster and whether you made the travel roster or not. And I remember Coach Patterson going, "Hey, I just want you to go. You need to experience this." And so I was lucky enough to go. Again, I wasn't going to really play. I had a broken foot, but I warmed up and did all that stuff. Kept the chart, and then I don't remember who. I remember Jefferson playing, and then just things didn't work out the way we wanted to. And then then I came in.
Because I feel like he played the Michigan State game the week before.
Yep, that's exactly right. And this wasn't where we wanted, to be as a team. And then when we were down, and that's where I alluded to where Dr. Buckwalter put the needle in my foot and just said, "Hey, here you go." And we ended up tying 21-21. You could still tie at that time. And Willie Guy caught a huge 3rd and 13 on a curl route, which was absolutely enormous. And then we had Northwestern at home, and then went to Minnesota, and I played both of those, and then obviously played really well. And we had that 49-42 game or 41 game up here in the Metrodome, which is pretty awesome. I have this great picture of when that's where we did pro right 41 throwback to quarterback when I caught the touchdown right before, 2 minutes left in the second quarter, right? It's just like, why would you do that? And that was the beauty of Coach Fry, because no one, and I remember Tim running in, because at that time we only used Dwight for, special plays. And, shame on Minnesota. They should have saw, here comes Dwight in. Maybe they didn't know who it was. But, here he comes in as a tailback. Okay, that's not normal. But I had this great picture in my garage of catching the touchdown. And the one guy that I see in the background is number 46. Hands up here like this, vertical of about probably, 6-8 inches. But it's the best picture I have. I have a huge picture in my garage of it. It's awesome. And that guy celebrating on that play. And obviously it ended up being a big play at the time. So that kind of set the, in trajectory. And then I had the surgery on my foot and all that business. But that gave me a nice little bump in a 95. And then competing with Ryan, obviously going into spring ball and winning that. And then having the 95 season like we had.
I had totally forgot that you played the Purdue game, and
Yeah,
that's crazy that you weren't even expecting or planning to play.
no, I think we took 4 quarter. I think Corby had been there, so I bet we took 4 quarterbacks. Think about that logically now. You're gonna try. Why would you travel 4 quarterbacks, right? I mean, you're never gonna do that, but we did. And Marcus didn't work out, Dupree didn't work out, and then nor did Jefferson, and
Jefferson,
and then Corby.
Weren't they even playing Willie or trying to get him some reps?
Well, I think you always tried Willie, because why wouldn't you? Player of the year, come on.
But you weren't in a boot at that time. You were out of the boot.
I was in a boot. And then you put your shoe on, and I had these little brace things I wore, and then when I had to play, and then it's like I said at halftime, and I hate needles. I can't stand needles, and all of a sudden, Dr. Buckerwalter comes with this huge needle and just is like, "Hey, this is gonna hurt, man." And I was like, "All right." And think about your foot. So just think about your foot. It was my right foot. So think about the outside of your right foot. There's nothing there, and he had to navigate it in because the bone is broken, just to numb it up. And then like I said, I remember waking up in the middle of the night, just going, "That's when the painkiller wore off," and I was like, "Holy smokes!" But
and to do well, he did well too. It's not like you went and struggled.
I don't know.
21 points. Yeah,
we did all right.
That's pretty good.
I certainly listen. It wasn't because of me. I mean, we just had some success and completed a couple passes and had some runs and all that stuff. But Willie guy, I will remember that he made a huge play on 3rd and 13, and it was like one of those where it was like 3rd and 12. Or he caught it at 12 yards and leaned forward and just get a little extra effort and first down, and that was huge. I will always remember that.
I think there's a full game on YouTube. I'll have to link to that because I think
I'm not sure it's good football. It won't be very exciting.
I do remember that actually because Bobby Diaco talks about that because he somehow was involved in the tying extra point or something, or they scored or something. And he was on the tackle and he took it really personally and said that he almost like gave up football because he felt like he let the team down or something. Wow, it was something really? He talked about that game the next year. It's like kind of put him in a funk a little bit. We hope to have him on to get more details on that. But
I still remember that'd be another good podcast too. Maybe you guys are already talking to him, but that would be a good one. I remember when his father and his father's friends would show up at practice, cigars and suits and everything else. And I'm like, I'm from small town Iowa, man. I don't know what's going on here. You remember that? That was unbelievable.
Oh yeah, they came in with the old Jersey style. Yeah.
Yes.
Leather jackets, and they were all decked out.
It was his father and like 3 dudes that just walk around and like
they were the owners or something of the Hawkeyes.
I mean, that's what Frank Fernucci and that bit and Coach Fry and all that. I'm just like, hey, thank you. I just shook their hands. I said, thank you. What are you thanking me for? I don't know, but I'm just going to thank you.
I feel like I should, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's that was bonkers. That was crazy.
that same year, was that the Illinois game then as well? Because the Illinois game we had like three or
Yeah,
four.
that was
couple
2
times.
weeks prior to the Purdue game. So
Yeah.
we lost 47-7. Nick had the touchdown pass from who threw that one to you? Jefferson?
Yeah, I didn't throw.
Or-
I think it was Jefferson. Yeah.
I think it was JB. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I did the worst, like grab and hold on to it, so I didn't
Terrible.
fall down. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
It was like, don't look at that film. I was like, there's no way on earth I'm dropping this pass right now. I was like, whatever I have to do to catch this. If I have to sacrifice my humility, like any of my pride, like I'm just gonna make sure this goes in my hands.
You did great, pal. You did great.
No, I did not, but luckily scored, I guess.
Well, I remember the Illinois game the following year is when I had 5 picks. And that's why I asked Coach Friday, it's like, hey, I'm done. He's like, nope, you're not done. Kept me out there. First play of the game, I threw a pick. That's terrible.
And you wait, so
95.
you asked to get taken out?
Yeah.
You were just like, just get me out
I
of here.
just like, Coach, I'm done. He goes, nope. How about that?
That's impressive.
We lost
The play was
27.
Yeah, that's when like Simeon Rice, Kevin Hardy. I mean,
That's right.
They called the defense. It was called 3 squat, and Coach Patterson. We didn't know how to attack it. They walked the guy out on the weak side. We had no idea. And you say, okay, throw an in route. Well, that sounds great until Simeon Rice destroys you. That was the hardest hit I've ever took with Simeon Rice in that game. And we were getting destroyed. And he looks at me and he's just like, you don't belong here. I was like, you're right. And he kind of started laughing and helped me up. Yeah.
I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, isn't he? I mean,
yeah, I was like, you're right. I don't. Good Lord.
He's like, you don't belong here either, Simeon. You need to be
right.
out of college by now.
Nick, it was the 3 levels, right? Just easy Y square out all week. We practiced it. We know exactly what to do. You know, just throw it in. If the strong safety drops, just throw it underneath, gain 4 yards. I decided to throw it over the top, and strong safety jumps up and picks it. First play of the game. Yeah. And I think about myself now as a parent. I can't imagine my dad and my mom sitting in the stands. We're so excited. Here we go. And then your idiot son throws a pick. And then 4 more during the game, by the way.
What was the mindset as a quarterback? Like, walk us through that part, because I think that's something most people don't understand. But like, talk us through like your mental part of it during a game. Is it just give us an insight into that, I guess?
Well, anyone that says, just, forget it and move on, it's never that easy, right? Because we all care too much, right? You miss a kick, you miss a catch. It's never that easy. Now, I mean, certainly the pros, I think they've been trained, boom. But at that time, I wasn't trained that way. I mean, for sure it bothered you. And anyone that says that you don't carry it with you, I think is just flat out lying. I mean, it's disappointment. Let my teammates down, let the fans down. I mean, all those things carry on you, and you're trying to call the next play. So it's something certainly I struggle with, and I'm still, I mean, I know both of you would be this. I know you are the same way, where, okay, you lose a game, you don't just walk away from it. It's something you think about, whether it's you miss a kick or you miss a pass or those things, or you throw a pick. So I struggle with that big time. I think the older I got, I leaned on like Father David Bain. I leaned on him. I leaned on some people that frankly weren't part of hockey football, and I was able to frankly kind of take some comfort in their words and kind of their guidance. But listen, it's trickled down to high school sports now too. It's intense, and people have a lot of high expectations, and you love that, but it's hard to handle. And I struggled. I'd be the first to tell you, I struggled big time. And then you're expected to go to class on Monday, and do those things and just be a normal person when you just threw 5 picks and you lost people money and you lost all that stuff, right? I mean, I still remember where I had a guy talk to me on the sidewalk and go, I lost money because of you, right? This is 1996. I lost money because of you. Sorry, I didn't try, right? And today it's even worse, obviously, with all the gambling and everything going on. So I don't know how you do it. I mean,
you didn't have hockey growing up, right? That wasn't really
no, God, no.
sport
No,
in Iowa.
I'm a terrible skater. No,
yeah.
I used to wear like figure skates, you know, I mean, I was terrible, but I love it. It's a great sport. The boys love it. The older you get is, and Nick, you have this with your daughters, like once they start competing, you kind of find your group of people that you just like to be around. And that's kind of you hang out with. And we have some really good, strong relationships with hockey and football from a youth standpoint that we just, yeah, whether they continue to play or not, but they'll be friends for a really long time. But hockey is a good sport. I like it a lot. I mean, up here, it's just a different deal. Like, I mean, Cade started, we were at daycare and he's 3 years old. And we had this, you know, he was buddies with a guy at 3 years old. So just like Millie was like, okay, this is my friend. Okay, whatever. You don't even know who you're talking to. Well, this family, big hockey family, they're like, hey, Josh is going to go skating. Cade should come along. I'm like, we're a basketball family. Just let him try it. Well, sure as shit, 14 years later, you know, $28,000 later, here we are. So he's skating and having a lot of success and a lot of fun and a big part of the high school deal. And I mean, up here, guys, it's for the high school. So we're 6A, Rosemont is. So an Iowa would be like 4A, right? So the highest class. They'll have probably 75 kids try out for the high school hockey team, and they'll keep 23. Cuts. You're done. That sucks as a 16, 17-year-old, you know, but that's just the nature of it. And then you get the crazy parents that, you know, they're trying to meet the coach or talk to the coach or influence the coach, and it happens daily. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But
well, I have a good hockey story. So we were traveling around doing photo shoots, and we ended up in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And, got connected with Wayne Gretzky. And so we were like shooting Wayne, and he like owned the Coyotes at that point in time.
Yeah.
And so I show up to work one day and they're like, we're dressing you up as a goalie. And I was like, okay, awesome.
Perfect.
I'm going to be like a prop for the shoot, right? So like I put this gear on, right? It's like this almost, you know, it's like the size of a couch, right? It's like pads and everything, put it all on, put the helmet on. I could skate a little bit, but nothing great. So they brought one of the Coyote players to practice. So I was like, all right, I want the full experience. I'm like, all right.
Oh my God.
I want you like, I was in goal until I was like, rip a shot as hard as you can at me. So I was like, okay, like, you know, nothing hurt except for when I hit like my thumb. Like the glove kind of has like some mesh, and I think I took one off the thumb, and I was like, all right, that hurt. Otherwise, it was like didn't feel anything. And then I was also like, all right, I want you to do a breakaway, and I want to see what this is like to try to stop this, right? And I wasn't gonna, you know, do anything crazy, but I just was like, I want the experience of doing that. So he comes down and just like, you know, not even, you know, just could have done it with his eyes closed, kind of thing.
That's awesome.
And the funny thing was, I didn't realize that I would glove save everything. So I would just glove save across and down and around, and I didn't realize about the butterfly either. So I'd use the stick and try to stop it. So I think I end up probably like ruining the shot because like I'm just like sweating, like steam is pouring off my head.
Yeah,
sweating.
I love it.
They're like, okay, all this for like nothing. If your helmet's not on, then you're like, this is a worthless shot for us. But I was like, oh man, I missed a fun sport growing up. So it looked like it was
you would have been good at it. Yeah. I mean, there's a physicality. It's like lacrosse, right? I mean, a lot of hockey guys do lacrosse up here in the non-season, but because there's a physicality, there is a kind of a soccer feel to it where, you know, be in a position. But you got to be really, really skilled. And it's amazing what they can do, especially the older NHL guys I mean, the way they handle that and the hand-eye coordination is unbelievable. Well, you tell me, how'd you handle the pressure when you had that 4-yard punt in Iowa State at Jack Trice? How'd you handle that?
I was devastated. Yeah. I mean, it was like,
you were furious on the tape.
I guess I was used to playing the game, so I could make it up some other way, or just wasn't as big a deal. And it was like,
I'm just joking, by the way. Yeah, don't get mad at me.
It's like, but it's one of those things. I don't think people understand that kind of that pressure of like just the pressure you put on yourself to be like, wow, I just blew that. A lot of people are watching. Like, you know, you've tried so hard, you've worked so much into it, and like have that opportunity. And some days it's just not your day, right? And it's like,
well, you had a big win in your face, so that wasn't your fault. At least that's what I recall.
I guess, but I guess you still don't let yourself buy with it, right? You're still, so the day you threw 5 picks, were you still just like, all right, you just were keep throwing it, or you were kind of like, you got timid, or like, what was that?
I don't know if I got timid. I just like, nothing's working. And maybe I wasn't smart enough to understand the scenario, which maybe that's a blessing too, and kind of what's going on. I mean, I asked Coach Fry, I was like, "Hey, I'm done," and then he's just like, "No, you're not." And that was in hindsight, maybe. I mean, what a cool thing to say, right? Because the easy answer would have been, "Yeah, sit down," and then who knows what would have happened. But I think he saw an opportunity to kind of challenge. I'd love to know my stats afterwards, or really, I never watched that game. That's the other thing. I mean, there's some games I've never watched. Like the Michigan game, guys, in '97, I've never watched it. Never watched it. Still not today. So you could say grow up a little bit, and that's probably true. But I've never watched that game because that changed everything. That changed everything for our team. That changed everything, frankly, for me. At least that's how I perceive it. Now I'm 50 years old, so maybe I need to grow up a little bit on that. But I still struggle with that. But you got to learn how to handle it. And I try to lean on the right people, and kind of have folks around you that realize it's bigger than just that particular pass or that particular game. And that's what I try to tell my boys, and surround yourself with the right people, whether you win or lose. It's okay. This is still a sport. You still can do great things like podcasts and other things, and have lifelong friends, and care about each other and all those things. So, but yeah, I guess that some things I dealt with really well, Nick, and some things I hid really well, I think. And I think we're probably all, anyone that plays, whether it's Division I, Division II, Division III, or professionally, when there's that pressure and that stress, you got to hide some of it. And that's just, you learn how to do that.
I guess, right? Because you have to have that outward invincibility, especially like being kind of the leader of the team, like you had. But yeah, I guess it was even hard for me being your roommate and a friend of yours. Just like some of the flack you got for some of those losses, you were just like,
I don't know if you remember. I mean, some of those. I mean, remember the good old answer machine deals, right? Where you had the answer machine. Oh my gosh! I mean, some of those messages, right? And I guess at the time I was just like, it's just part of the deal. It's just part of the deal. And now you're looking back, no, it's not part of the deal. Who does that? Right? Who does that stuff? But
messed up.
It still happens today, though, to guys, right? And now it's more, I think, gambling, money related, and all those things. But at that time, I don't think it was, for the most part. But I mean, I still remember when I broke my hand in Michigan, and then I remember walking over to the hospital, maybe the following week, and this guy stopped me on the sidewalk, and he goes, again, money deal. I lost money because of you. Here I am in my cast going over to the hospital. Practice is going on. I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's Wednesday afternoon at 4:30 or 5, whatever it's like, what are we doing here? But I guess I don't know, I was 20 years old, and that's just what you do. I don't know, but just bizarre. I mean, maybe it shaped you, maybe it helped me a little bit. I don't know, but that's how it was, and it still is. I'm not the only one.
Yeah. I think you have to almost look at it that way, that shapes you in some way, good, hopefully more good than bad. But yeah, I can, it makes things that happen in life seem pretty petty and little.
Yeah, no doubt.
Compared to those things, it's like, oh, this is a piece of cake. It might be tough for someone else, but I'm not even sweating over this because this is nothing.
I'm so fortunate because some of my best friends still are my high school buddies. We got like 5 of us that still talk weekly, and now of course they'll get after you, when they should, and make fun of you when they should. But at the end of the day, they have your best going forward, and I'm so appreciative of that group because yes, they would make fun of me when I threw a pick or did this or lost the game, but you always knew that was a real safe area to be at, if you will. But and so I don't know. I guess I needed that at the time, and those guys were there, and they still are today. Here we're 50-ish plus, and I looking back, that truly made a difference. At the time, I didn't realize it, but now looking back, it certainly did.
I just think the etiquette of the fans to some degree has gotten so out of control. It's like when Robert was playing for the Raiders, I think there was a couple games where I was just like, oh man, this is some vicious stuff. And then, the same people are like, as soon as he gets out of his car, like, I'll sign this for my kid and these things. Just like,
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I realize it's a tribal thing and some of that, and like the emotion that gets into it. People really put high stakes in it, but just at some point you're like, I think you're asking these athletes to be superhuman, to be like, someone can walk up to you, say anything they want to, and just expect no reaction. And like, especially like football's a violent game too, right? Of just like violent game. There's a lot of pride. There's a lot of, macho involved and all that stuff. And it's just like, they're just expecting these people to be kind of like Teflon, would just do and say anything, and they just can't have any response to it.
Yeah, as a fan, I think you're 100% right, Nick. As a fan, you go to the game, you have a couple of beers, you have your food, boom, you holler this and that, win, you're excited, lose, you're upset, and then you walk away from it. And as a player, this is if you're professional like Robert, obviously this is your career, this is your job, this is what you're supposed to do. In our case, it was a job, no doubt about it. We spent more time at that, at least I did, more time at that than I probably did my studies. But that's what we were supposed to do, right? And we were just immature at the time. I think I didn't understand it, and I think Coach Fry and the staff tried to do their best to kind of give the lay of the land. I think they do. I think colleges and universities do a really good job now. Here's what you do. Here's how you handle it. I mean, there's other resources and tools available for student athletes, which I think is really important. But I don't know if we had that at the time, and not that would have made a huge difference, but like anything else, if you kind of understand what to expect, then you can deal with it. And I didn't really understand what to expect. And so you do the best you can and lean on your friends.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure it was entertaining, or not entertaining, but an experience for our parents to be in the stands when like no one knew who they were, right? At the beginning. To like hear some of that stuff go on, other folks and that. So.
I remember my dad finally wore a number 12 hat that either someone gave him or used to be this, I don't know the brand, but the vintage 12, or I think he finally wore that the senior year. Otherwise he didn't. And I never understood why, but now I do, because you almost want to kind of just be low key guy because you don't want that heat, right? Don't wear a jersey. And he never did. And not that I wanted him to, but now I understand why he didn't. Because why put yourself out there? Why be ridiculed for something that your knucklehead son did on 3rd and 4? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, you can tell the people who have never competed at a pressure type sports, because you'll see them yelling at the players. And I would never yell at a player for messing up, because I'm like, I've been that guy many times. Like, and that, like, and I'll speak for all of you either, but it's just like, we've all been in that situation of trying your best and having it go in utter failure. And your years of training have built up for this point, and you fall on your face. Right. And it's not for lack of effort. It's just sometimes that's how it works when you're competing in a high intense sport against someone else who's trying to do the exact same thing you are, competing against each other. It doesn't work out all the time.
And what's it going to accomplish?
Right.
What's the end result? What's your end game here? Think about it logically. By you hollering at this 18-year-old because he dropped the pass, what's that going to accomplish? Nothing. No. So move forward. I don't know. No, that's a great perspective, Brian. But a lot of people, as we both know, that doesn't always translate into youth, high school, college, professional. It just doesn't.
That's the down part of sports, I think. It's just,
I think you're right.
The pressure on that, or the gambling, or whatever that is. But it's pretty bad when you get up at the even higher levels. But it seems like, like you said, it's getting lower and lower now where it starts.
For sure.
And now it's getting competitive way too early. And it's too bad, because I think I had a good mix at that time of got the pressure to get maybe into high school varsity
Yeah.
football, maybe get a little pressure, and then college, of course, that makes sense. But
I guess I just had this memory of like, I mean, think when we win or lose, I mean, on a Saturday night, we could still go out and have fun and be with our friends and do what we did today, even if it was a loss, right? And it was okay. And then we go Sunday morning and we do our running. Billy Coates would be late, and then we have to figure that out. But just kidding, if you're watching. But point being is, right, is we still, I guess, as much as we're talking about all the stresses and challenges, right, we still could do that. We still had that going for us. And that was pretty dang cool. And I'm not sure that exists much anymore. I maybe it does in certain schools and universities, but I just think there's so much pressure on these guys now where they don't have that luxury where we could kind of go out and relax. And if you're old enough, have a beer. If you're not, that's fine. But, you know, just, and then figure it out and just be with your friends. And I think it's harder. It's harder for sure. It's only going to get more difficult. I think about it. I'd love to have my junior. I hope he has a chance to play college sports, whether it's hockey or football, only because whether it's D3 or 2 or 1, be part of something, right? Be part of a team, because we all know the value of that, right? We're all 3, I think, examples of that, where we're all better off in the opportunities and the things that we're doing is because we were part of this group, not knowing each other, and all of a sudden now look at us, right? We're doing stuff as older men that we never thought we'd probably be doing, for sure. And so I hope he has that chance, because college sports do matter. The NIL stuff's crazy. I deal with it daily. I hate it. It's not going away. We can all complain about it, but it's here to stay. So you got to figure out how you got to be flexible and adapt in it, and move forward with it, because it's not changing. It's not going away.
What's your feelings on the transfer portal, as long as we're down that road?
Yeah, I don't mind it, I guess. I mean, and I don't mind it in a sense. Well, you got to remember, it's a two-way street now. The university can also say, hey, Matt Sherman, you're not good enough, so you need to move on. It's not just the player. The university can do the same thing. I remember Coach Fry said, hey, we'll give you 5 years, boom, guaranteed, lock it in. Okay, those days are done. Now, a couple of years ago, it was just the player saying, hey, I'm not happy here, I'm going to move on. Well, now the team can do that as well. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's where they're at. I guess I like it, Nick, in a sense. I mean, all the things that we're talking about, the camaraderie and all the friendships, right? And we've all known each other for 20 plus years. And so those days, you know, that's probably not going to be the norm, certainly. But it does give players opportunities. And I heard Tim Miles, who was the basketball coach at Colorado State and then Nebraska, and I think he's at San Jose State now, who Jeff Konya, you guys might remember Jeff Konya, he's the AD out there. But Tim Miles is out there, but he made a comment. It just made a lot of sense. He goes, hey, they got 4 years, maybe 5, 4 years to do this. So if this isn't the right fit, let them move on. And that kind of resonated with me a little bit. But it also turned into kind of free agency, right? Where teams like Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, some others, if you need a D tackle, guess what? You go to the portal and you go find a D tackle that maybe is back up at Alabama. And you offer money, you offer them some other opportunities. There you go. So it's just college sports. Again, it's not going to change the way it is. So you figure out how to play ball within the parameters and move forward. I don't like it, but
it helps to have a little more fairness, between the school and the player, because it didn't really come up for me as an option, but like we're getting sold something and then you get there and it may not be what you got. As an 18-year-old, you're trying to make a decision about where you're going to spend the next 5 years based on some coach telling you what they are going to do for you or how the situation is. Then you get there and you find out it doesn't match exactly, perhaps. Then it gives, I think, that option to say you don't have to sit out a year. So I do like that part of it. But maybe there's some limit that says you get one free transfer and then next you have to sit, and it's going to be a little more painful. But you're not stuck somewhere forever or in a really bad situation, or maybe there's something really bad going on with the program. Who knows? But I like that part.
Yeah, good point. There's no guardrails, right? There probably should be some guardrails and kind of say, I agree with you, Brian. You get one free kind of pass, and then after that, we got to talk about some things. But there's just so much money involved now, guys. It's bonkers, and it's the haves and the have-nots, right? I mean, look at Ohio State. What, $28 million they paid for their team this year? That's reality. And then we have $22 million coming in to every Big Ten school. In theory, they could get $22 million to one player if they want. They don't have to spread it evenly. There is no Title IX implications right now. That's still being litigated. But how do you handle that? So, I mean, it's silliness. And football drives the revenue for all of the. I mean, here in Minnesota, it's 90% of the revenue.
Wow.
So does the 90% of 22 million go to football? You know, that's what they got to figure out. They got 26 other sports. So how do you handle that? What happens to track and field? What happens to women's soccer? What happens to women's hockey? All these, right? All the things that we just talked about, the greatness of college sports and the experience that we all have. And the better we are because of it. Do those things go away? I think that's the hardest job in America. Not the hardest job. A hard job in America is being an athletic director. That's a hard job. Good luck to you, because you make one decision and you got, a couple of people that really like you and a couple of people that really dislike you. So no thanks.
Yeah, change direction a little bit. Do you have any good Hayden Fry stories, or any stories in general, like funny things that happened, or what sticks in your mind from back then?
Well, I can tell you the official recruiting visit. Well, the visit that he came to our high school, he flew into Osage on a jet. Well, I think it was a prop plane, but flew into Osage because it's a grass runway. But did fly into Osage, and then somebody picked him up. I don't know who, but somebody picked him up in Osage and drove 9 miles to the high school.
This is what year? 92?
This would have been 1992. Yep.
Okay. Someone knows in Osage who drove Coach Fry.
For sure. Somebody had to drive him. I mean, landed there. Yeah. So he landed there and drove over. And again, the school is, so 53 kids in my class. So let's just, a couple hundred. So he walked in the school. The principal, Emmett Tyler, made every, I don't know, I guess loudspeaker said, "Hey, Coach Fry's in the building." So every kid came out in the hallway. So, Coach Fry, Love and Life, right? I mean, that's right up his alley. And it's only two, there's just like one long hallway and then you take a right and that's it, right? So all the kids are right there. So he, waves at everybody, this and that. And so it was me. And again, my father is the AD football coach, algebra teacher. My mom taught German in St. Ansgar, but then she was at Osage at the time. But just but we know every school teacher. I mean, small town. So then we go into Jim Lowenzi's office, who's a guidance counselor, and we're sitting down. So it's me, my mom, Coach Fry, Dad, and Jim Lowenzi, and we're just sitting there, and we're just talking. And again, my mom was a German teacher, and Coach Fry starts talking German to my mom. And I took German for 2 years because that was the prerequisite. You had to have 2 years of foreign language. Couldn't speak a lick of it. Still can't today, but passed it. C's probably, but passed it. But he starts talking German to my mom. So him and Coach Fry and my mom are talking German back and forth. And I look at my dad, and he's like, "I don't know what's going on." And then Coach Fry had the Rose Bowl boots from the last Rose Bowl in '91, and I saw him. "Hey, Matt, you come to Iowa, I'll get you a pair of these." And I'm like, oh my God. This is in a tiny little guidance counselor's office. And I was like, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, we got it. Yes, sir." And so he walks out. He's waving. All the students are still in the hallway, still waving. And then he drives to Osage. Somebody drives him and flies out on a prop plane, probably. So that was an awesome memory. But I have a couple others too.
How long is he there? Like 10 minutes?
20 minutes, maybe max.
No way.
Yeah.
And you hadn't signed yet, so he's
no. This is before. This was like the come see. Yeah. I think Coach Elliott had to be with him, and I should have said that from the get-go. I just had this memory of him speaking German with my mom the entire time, and I'm just like, that's the ultimate sales guy, right? Again, leverage. Yeah. Jake Plummer, never talked to him, but he told me he did, right? I mean, what a beautiful job, and I'm in sales, so I guess lesson learned on my part, right?
I think you need to get a pair of the boots and start trying that out.
I do have a pair of boots that I bought with our per diem money in '95 going to El Paso. Yes. Which I
there are a
still
lot
have
of boot
today.
purchases on that trip.
So I still have that, but I mean, that's
now many people have mentioned the boots. That's been come up a lot already. The boots, yeah, I think that's as patented like closing.
Well, it worked for sure on our family. So yeah, that was a good one. And then I have a great memory of Michigan State when we beat in '95 when we beat Michigan State up there. Nick Saban was coach, and that hokey pokey in the locker room, and
a tiny locker room.
Ron Stewart, who's the sheriff, and he had that briefcase, and that fell down, and there was a lot of interesting things in that briefcase. But that's another story for another day. But
I don't remember that one.
Oh, I do.
Okay.
And then I just remember trying to go to use the restroom in the airplane and try to walk up first class. And once that airplane took off, you couldn't walk up there. That was the deal. You couldn't pass Coach Fry. At least I couldn't. I was
well, if you couldn't, then no one could.
I was turn around and go back.
Maybe Cedric could have after that game.
Yeah, Cedric could.
Maybe, but no one.
And then when we beat Penn State '96 out there, I remember I rode the jump seat landing in Cedar Rapids. That was unbelievable. Where you could, at that time you could walk through the plane, do whatever you want. I remember talking to the pilots, and they're like, "Hey, why don't you sit down?" And so I sat up there and I sat in the jump seat the whole way landing. Yeah, that was pretty cool. But no, I mean, I have more stories I could, just shape my life in a lot of different ways. And I guess the lesson I've always kind of taken away is just, he gave me so many opportunities, and I just think that's what life's all about, right? Is it doesn't work out right away. It's not just done. There's opportunities to be had, and do the right thing and treat people the right way. And he certainly did that. So
I guess that was going to be my next question, is what would you tell someone coming into it these days? But I guess that kind of covers it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I look at college sports as just a window of opportunity, and if you have this chance, or even high school sports, you have this chance to just be part of something. And the older I get, the more I appreciate the team approach, right? We're so focused on what we can do and how we can do it ourselves. And if you can have this approach where it's about serving and giving and doing more, all that stuff comes back. And I'm trying to live my life that way now, where I just want to impact people's lives in a real positive way and do things a little bit different and not about myself. And if you can do that, I just think we'll all be better off. So Coach Fry certainly had that.
And I guess that kind of maybe wraps up Iowa a bit. Talk to us a little bit after school and what you did there for a bit.
Like all of us, I thought I was going to the league. Had an agent, and I remember the New York Giants said, "Hey, don't worry about it if you don't get drafted. We'll take you as a free agent." Well, that call never happened. I went to the combine, had a great experience at the combine. There were 17 of us. Peyton was there, Ryan Leaf. And I still remember Peyton Manning pulling me over. He goes, "Hey, I watched you against Wisconsin. I loved how you do your play action," which Chuck Hartlieb still makes fun of me today because I had this little dip. But if you watch Peyton, he had this little dip. I'm not going to say it's because of me, but he did make a comment in 1997 in February that he really liked how he did that.
I think that you should take credit. That sounds convincing to me.
Well, I'm not sure he would agree with that, but so that was cool, right? To go to the combine, experience that whole thing, and have that opportunity. And frankly, I think Coach Fry pulled some favors on that one to get me there, and that was a cool, really, really cool experience. And again,
were you healthy at the combine?
Yeah. I mean, as healthy as I could. I mean, I'm not, Nick Gallery healthy, but yeah, I mean,
you weren't like injured.
You mean like not play for 4 years? Like stay on the
so listen, I mean, okay. So listen, my 40 time was better than Brian Greasy. My vertical jump was better than Brian Greasy. I mean, enough said. He played in the league for a while. So he was on that group. And I remember Sean Payton was a quarterback coach at New Orleans at the time, and he was the Giants. The Giants. and he was our kind of liaison or our team lead or whatever. And he never left Greasy's side. And I'm just like, hey, I'm Matt. How you doing? No, we're good. He just never even gave me the time of day, which wouldn't matter. But that's Sean Payton, which I think you fast forward, Sean Payton's not exactly, well liked by a lot of people. But so I thought I had a chance and never got into camp. And then John Gregory, who's the head coach for the Iowa Barnstormers, who my father played football with, gosh, in the 60s at UNI.
Wow.
Had a relationship, and he's like, hey, Kurt was done in 96. And the Barnstormers were good it was really good, right? It's a good brand of football, this and that. And then gave me an opportunity. So I did that for 3 years and really,
what year
really
did you
enjoyed
start
it.
there?
99. It was good. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Met a lot of people, saw a lot of things. I mean, it was Wild Wild West, right? I got helmet and shoulder pads. They're like, you want any other pads, buy them yourself. It was crazy. There was no drug testing. It was crazy. And it was workers' comp stuff. So more needles than I've ever seen because everyone had to play. If you didn't play, you didn't get paid. Right. So, so I did that. And then got to a point where I just like, okay, this isn't probably me, or this isn't going to work out. And then decided to say, all right, time to move on and moved out to Betsy was in Phoenix at the time and moved out there. And then ultimately moved back up to Minneapolis here. So I think the hardest part for any athlete, especially at our level, is like, when is it done? Right? Because you're always chasing something else. You're always training for something else. And then all of a sudden it comes and it's like, holy smokes. Now what? That was hard. Yeah, that was hard.
Yeah, because you think back of when you started, football and started getting really serious about it, and it was almost nonstop. You're doing some kind of sport, but that's your focus pretty much is that fall, and then you do that for so many years, you just get in that habit. It seems weird.
It seems weird. Yeah, you're always chasing something, right? You're always building towards something, and all of a sudden you don't have that. So, but it was a good timing, and then I was fortunate enough to, have the kids come along and try to have that as my motivation.
Yeah, it is interesting. You kind of set up this like almost like a repetition kind of machine, right? That you're just like keep doing something over and over and over again. It's hard to really stop that kind of mindset of like, I've got to keep striving, got to keep moving forward in that respect. Or at least for me, it's been that way of trying to be like, all right, this isn't important as it seems to be, right? It's like I can shut that off somehow if I can, but
I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, but you think about, I think, especially college sports, I mean, there's a regiment, right? Here's where you are. Here's what you do. It's a military thing, right? It's no different. I mean, those two things are paralleled. And once you're in that, it's hard, I think, to get out of that. You do your best when you're out of it, like we are now, and you try to figure out kind of what's that routine, what does that look like, and I think it takes time. You just got to figure out the best path for yourself and what works. But that's where I always, like I was saying with my children, I just hope they have a chance to experience college athletes because I like that regimen. I think there's a value in that, and having something to chase and having something to work towards is important.
I think being able to push yourself out of your comfort zone and
for sure
challenge yourself, then it says like without that coaching or drive or competition, you don't really know what you can do. And then you kind of see that, oh, well, there's so much further we can go, or I can put more effort, I can work harder, I can put in that extra effort there. I think that's is an advantage going forward because you're going up and competing in life with other people in your job and stuff like that didn't have that. And so I just always felt like I had that advantage that if this gets difficult or tough, I'm going to be able to hold on through here much easier than the average person.
Yep. No, well said. Brian, listen, I'm a small town Iowa guy, right? So, I mean, how do I compete with people at City High's level, Linmar's level, etc.? I mean, but you don't know what you're capable of until you get that opportunity, right? And we all got that opportunity. And I think Nick would be the same way. I mean, East Buck's a heck of a school. I get it. Nice athletes come out of there. His brother's a little better athlete. Actually, both brothers, all three brothers. But point being,
sister's
the best athlete.
She's the best. Yeah.
Point is, you don't know, right? Until you, like, that's what you said, until you kind of get pushed and challenged. And we've all benefited from that opportunity. And some take advantage of it. I think all of us did. And some, unfortunately, they don't. And not that they're bad people. It's just that's how it works out. But no, it's a good point.
Yeah, probably the most talented team you could assemble never made it into college for some reason, right? I mean, it's not just the talent. It's you have to be able to do the other things. Well, a lot of wannabe, it could have been stories we hear, from people like, oh, I should have been recruited. I could have made this team, or I got screwed over. It's like, there's a reason you didn't.
That's the whole makeup of the Iowa. Think about the Iowa walk-on program or Nebraska walk-on program, which I know you were part of, right? With the Hawks. I mean, that there you go. Challenge me. I'm built for this challenge. I think that's unbelievable. And I think that's why, frankly, Iowa was so successful. And you think about Nebraska back in the day, oh my gosh, that walk-on program made them. And then you sprinkle in some really, really good athletes. But no, that mindset is unbelievable. And certainly in sports, you see it. I think in business, it's certainly there as well, where people get challenged and kind of rise up or you don't. And more times than not, people do, I believe. You guys are hard-hitting questions. It's like 16 minutes, by the way.
Yeah, right.
I'm waiting for the tick. Yeah, Jesus.
You're like you're on Oprah right now. You want to give everybody cars? We give everybody a car.
I love that you guys are doing this. And I really appreciate letting me be part of it. I bring no value. I mean, the Derek stuff's great. I can't wait to, hear obviously a lot. You have so many people, I think, that you can tap into that just bring different perspectives. It's fun to hear you, Brian, saying that, hey, there's some similarities or some things that are kind of becoming a little bit more frequent when it comes to stories of certain people and some other things. Which is pretty cool. But 1995, lose to Northwestern. Gary Barnett, jerk.
God. So close. We almost pulled that upset.
That was the year. Bowl. Then they played in Rose Bowl and they got destroyed by SC. Remember how many people their feet were so cold? And Coach Rice said, just put a bag over your feet. You guys don't remember that?
I think I did.
Yeah, a bread bag.
I did for that game.
Like an ice bag. Yeah. It was like a Marine trick or something.
Just like a steam, it's like a steam bun or something.
I don't know. That's what we're worried about.
Yeah, right. I got tackled on punt return too. I don't think that helped.
That didn't help either.
That didn't help either. Yeah. And I got hit with a snowball in the face after that game. I was so fucking mad. I was like,
the other thing that's come up on almost all these is Coach Elliott. I mean, I think that's incredible.
Really? Like that's awesome.
Nick talked about him. He was involved in my recruiting as a walk-on. Like how did he get around? And then he would always talk to everyone, whether he was he wasn't even my position coach. He had very little, need to reach out, but he was always just doing that. And, and then he was a former player at Iowa. He didn't talk about that. I don't think that much.
No.
It's almost like football was secondary. And I think that's why so many people talk so highly about him is he just had the little things and you could tell he cared about the players. And he happened to be a football coach.
He connected with you differently than me and Nick and Demo and Damon Rob. Right? He just connected with. He had the ability to do it. Not everyone can do. Clearly, not everyone can do that, right? But he did it. He did it every day, and it wasn't a fake. He lived it. It was authentic, right? That's the best word in the world. Authentic, and he was authentic. You can't smoke and mirrors that. You can't coach that. You can't teach that. It's either you are or you aren't. And he was. And I think we all strive to be that. And if you can do it, then it's all you can ask for. So.
We really appreciate having you on. You were definitely high on my list to get on. I'm glad you did it for us.
Well, I appreciate the time. I know you guys are busy. Well, thanks for this chance to connect, boys. This was fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep up the good
Thanks,
work,
Jeremy.
boys. Thanks
All
for the
right.
opportunity.
You bet.
All right. Take care, man.
Take care.